Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you so much for checking out this video here on Show, Style, and Spirit. I really didn't think too much of Sheree Whitfield and Martell Holt being seen out together. I just really just thought it was for, publicity. They wanted to trend. They wanted to be talked about in the blogs. There were moments where I thought that perhaps Martell Holt was being a little bit more strategic, just kind of in his ways of allegedly always being obsessed with what Melody does. She visits her brother in Atlanta. She goes to Atlanta often. So now Sheree Whitfield would be his reason to be in Atlanta. Allegedly, the rumor is that Martell has been doing some renovations at Chateau Sheree, including installing a pool, which I've never heard of Martell being able to do that. But of course, I don't know the guy personally. I know that he and Melody, they did do renovations where like people, so they were like contracted with one of the government agencies where people, if they foreclosed on a home and maybe they did damage, then Martell and Melody would go into the home and make those repairs so that the home would be habitable and sellable later on. I believe that's what they've done, and that's called property preservation, and that's Melody's masterclass. But anyway, so I say all that to say that perhaps it is likely that that's a skill that Martell would have, where he could install a pool for Melody, for Sheree. But anyway, I do want to play this live when Sheree was on Instagram Live just a couple days ago. It takes place in New York City. So Sheree was in New York City filming the reunion for the current season, season 14 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And Martell Holt, he flew up to New York City. They were spending some time together after Sheree filmed the reunion. And I just want to point out some things. We're not going to listen to the whole thing. It is kind of boring. It's just them pretty much walking the New York City streets outside, talking, giggling. Then they're going to be back in her hotel room, and he's saying that he has to catch a flight. And it really just seems like they're trying to convince us that they are together. And I do want to give my commentary. There are a couple of things that kind of stuck out to me. Yes, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to play this live. You won't be able to see any visuals, but we're going to play their live, and here it is. They're just walking right now.
I almost feel like we want to get some dessert or something early this morning.
Oh my gosh, he loves dessert.
No, sir, we're not. Thank you.
Plus tour.
Neither one. Thank you so
Enjoy,
much.
guys.
We should have done that. We should have.
Maybe next time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
You want to get dessert now? You guys are really talking.
So I'm actually playing a video. So shout out to the blogger that actually edited. They're doing their commentary. They were stopping and pausing. I wanted to get to the part where Martell, I thought it was going to play continuously, but Martell actually says to Sheree, so you don't have your reading glasses with you. Sheree actually is going on Instagram Live and she's saying, oh, I can't see any of the comments. And Martell giggles and says, oh, you don't have your reading glasses on you, do you? It just kind of comes off like some subtle shade, like he was getting at her age. So Sheree is 52. She looks amazing. She has body yaddy yaddy. And Martell, they say he's 41. So they're about 11 years apart. But he kind of makes some shade at, Sheree not being able to see the comments because she doesn't have on her reading glasses. So I pretty much thought that was kind of uncalled for, and it kind of makes her look like the fool. But what I did want to say that while it does still come off like a publicity stunt for Martell, I do think that it means something to Sheree. I'm sure she's attracted to Martell. She's probably extremely flattered that he flirts with her and spends time with her, and he's 11 years younger. And she knows that he had an affair with someone who's 20 years younger than Sheree. So it probably makes Sheree feel really good to be with Martell right now. And then, she broke up with Tyrone, who was incarcerated. So it's probably a really picker upper, to really probably make Sheree feel really good to spend some time with Martell. So I don't think that it's 100% just to be seen and just to trend and be in the blogs. I don't think it's 100% the case for Sheree. I think that she may actually like Martell, which kind of sucks. So this is what brings me to my next slide. So Sheree, to me, she settles for less. So she loves to date men whom I think she probably assumes will really want to spend time with her because they're not like this professional doctor or attorney, who makes all this money, has all this education, and can get any woman he wants. I think she settles for less, maybe thinking that that's the easy way to finding love. So she dated Tyrone. As I said, he was incarcerated. Allegedly, it was for more of like a white collar crime, I believe, on the lines of fraud. Now, if you remember, we first were introduced to Tyrone back during season 4 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. It was in episode 1 when Sheree was very mad at Nene, accusing Nene of going behind her and telling Tyrone, you could save money on this event if you just pay me to basically do the walkthrough. You know how reality TV stars, they host parties at clubs. If you follow them on Instagram, they're going here, they're going there, they're going to parties, they make money that way. Well, both Sheree and Nene were booked for an event that Tyrone was having. And allegedly, Tyrone told Sheree that Nene tried to go behind her and say, well, you could make more money just hiring me. You would save the money that you would have to pay Sheree. Nene denied it, and they were at a winery going back and forth. Sheree told Nene, that's why, I remember when your teeth were busted out. I remember when your car got repossessed. And Nene told her, while you were busy running your mouth, I was running to the bank cashing Trump checks. Just classic scene, one of the many classic scenes on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Oh my gosh, I miss those seasons so much. But anyway, getting back to current times, well, even fast forwarding to season 10, when Sheree just put it out there that she was dating Tyrone and he was incarcerated, and Nene said it again then that she said he was a scammer, allegedly. So then they were together. Sheree was dating him. So now we're all the way to season 14. Tyrone has been in Sheree's life for several years. I'm sure that she got used to his conversation and vice versa. Unfortunately, once he got out of jail, it appears like he dumped her, as we saw on episodes of this current season, to where Sheree was even crying, and Marlo had to console her and tell her not to settle for anything less. And I have to agree with Marlo. But I do feel like, from what I hear, I've never dated a person who's been incarcerated, but I hear that, when they write you letters, when they talk to you on the phone, it's all these sweet nothings, everything that you want to hear so that you remain in contact with them. And I'm sure that Sheree's constant being in Tyrone's life while he was incarcerated, it was something to keep him encouraged, to help him get through those years. And then they say once the person gets out of prison, that's when you see who they really are. And then it seems like he was no longer interested in Sheree. And it was like a public breakup, and it just seemed very embarrassing. Now, after Tyrone, yes, she may be dating a guy who's physically handsome and 11 years younger, but he does have, 5 kids by 2 different women and no steady income. I've never looked at reality TV as like steady income, because the TV show could always end. And it's not like they are professional actors like Denzel Washington making millions and millions for one movie, or even the actors who make a lot of money. Some actors for the TV sitcoms, they were making millions. That's not reality TV. It isn't. Candy, she's very, very blessed to make over $2 million each season on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. That is not the norm, and that is not what they're paying Martell on OWN for Love and Marriage Huntsville. There's just no way. So I don't feel like Sheree has done any upgrades by dating Martell. Again, he may be physically fit and 11 years younger than her, which is very flattering to the ego, but nothing that you could take seriously. Absolutely not. So then we've already tapped into Sheree's dating pattern. We know that she was married to Bob Whitfield. I'm sure at one point he wined and dined her, but then they had just like a total collapse in their marriage, according to him, allegedly, when she was in the marital home before she was out of it when the Real Housewives of Atlanta started. Allegedly, Bob Whitfield was giving Sheree money to make the monthly mortgage payments, and she was not doing that, and then they lost the house. So that seems like a very tumultuous relationship. And then after that, it was Tyrone who was incarcerated, and then Martell. So then we've broken down, her dating habits. Let's talk about her business decisions. Now, you may be wondering why the slide with Phaedra and Candy looking at a big pile of dirt. Well, this used to be Chateau Sheree, in the beginning stages. We now know it as an actual mansion. It's massive. It's gorgeous. She completed it. This was the beginning. This was in season 4 when she decided to break ground and build a mansion. I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, is this woman in over her head? She's a single parent. Did she ever get any money from Bob? It just seemed, like the empath in me was just like, is she making the right decision? It just seems like the focus should be, just keeping a roof over your kids' heads. So she went on ahead and she started Chateau Sheree. There's all these rumors out on the blogs for years that allegedly Chateau Sheree did not pay contractors, and that's why it took her years. There's even rumors that Tyrone helped her finance the mansion. I don't know about that. That is a very likely possibility. But I just figured at some point she must have gotten a settlement from Tyrone and used that money to build the mansion. Now, I know for typically a new build that's not a mansion, you figure at least 3 to 4 bedrooms, at least a couple thousand square feet. Those homes can be built in just a few months. I've written mortgages for new builds. They can be built in under 6 months. So for a mansion, I know just from watching The Real Housewives of Orange County with the Dubrows, it would take them 1 to 2 years to build a mansion. So even if you're giving Sheree 2 years out, that would have been like by season 6, she would have had her mansion. But she had her mansion was pretty much mostly done by season 9. It took her like 5 years. But in any event, she did. But I'm saying all this to say that I do feel like Sheree may go for what seems like fantasy and what will really make her name just stick out there. So, hence Chateau Sheree, hence dating Martell, just to see like a pattern here. And then there's her clothing line, She by Sheree. Like Candy pointed out in a recent episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, She by Sheree is the biggest brand that was birthed out of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, and it has never sold any product. There's never been anything that any of us could buy. But I would bet money that I could go on my personal Facebook page and I could type up a status, what is She by Sheree? And I believe that people will say, oh, it's the clothing line that Sheree has been trying to put out. I've heard of this on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, but have any of us bought a t-shirt or a pair of leggings or a dress? Nothing. And Sheree, she could have grossed in the millions by now had she released a line of clothing. And even Candy told her on a recent episode, even if you just come up with a couple of products like a t-shirt, leggings, and then you take that money to expand. And Sheree just smiled. You could tell it wasn't anything that she was really seriously thinking about applying. She was like, oh, okay, Candy. I could tell it went through one ear and out the other. So To me, that's a lack of a business mind, because I can see if you want to do it all up like Chateau Sheree, but sometimes it's just about getting from A to B just to keep some steady income coming in. You know, if you have side hustles, if you have multiple streams of income, you would have those thoughts. So I'm just saying that to say that the way Sheree has handled her clothing line, She by Sheree, her Chateau Sheree, we're seeing a pattern here that's even being dictated in her personal dating life. Okay, so moving right along, like Sheree, Martell's physical self is great. You know, he's handsome, he's fit, he's still very much youthful. He's handsome and fit, but however, he never developed his mindset. I feel like Martell has a very skewed viewpoint of what manhood is. It's not just him. I feel like many men share this viewpoint that manhood is all about how many different women that you can sleep with, you know, how many children you can produce by various women. I think they look at the multiple kids as showing that, you know, they're doing it, you know. And so I feel like for Martell, that is what is manhood for him versus, you know, being committed and providing and teaching your children how to be productive members of society, teaching them about God, you know, spending quality time with your wife, enjoying that companionship. You know, I just feel like he had a very skewed vision of marriage as well. Even telling Melody, I was thinking you would talk with the older women who also were cheated on so that you could kind of get some, you know, information on how to handle that. So I just feel like Martell has a very limited, short sighted view of life. And similarly, Sheree, she has developed her physical self. I think Sheree looks amazing. She is fit. She really puts in the effort to take great care of her body. She's always worked out. I've always felt like She by Sheree should have been an active wear line. It should have been a lifestyle line. I don't know why it took her so long to have that light bulb go off, but I felt like who she is fitness and wellness. So I didn't understand why She by Sheree was always, you know, like party looking tops and dresses, cocktail dresses. I felt like who she is more like active wear and lifestyle. And she just looks simply amazing. But I feel like she did not always develop, you know, the business mind, the proper self-esteem. I do believe that she is confident. She's confident in her looks. She's confident in her celebrity. But that true self-esteem that's like, oh, I know I'm a quality person. I know that I treat people the way that I want to be treated in return. I know that I've raised my kids right. You know, I know that I don't harm people. I feel like that self esteem she has yet to develop, because if she did, she would not be with Martell. She just would not. There's no way. Because I don't care how good Martell looks, and he looks good. I do find him attractive. But in real life, if he was not on TV and I just saw him, as soon as he told me about the 5 kids, no. As soon as he admitted to cheating on his wife, no. You know, and no builder's license, you know, I just think like that. Like, you know, what is his steady income? And why is he approaching me if he knows like he can't really be like a husband? Does he just want to do it? Is it just a physical thing? You know, so there's just no way. So while I do think it's mostly a publicity stunt anyway, so when you have the mindset like, oh, they're just doing this to be in the blogs, to be seen as a publicity stunt, then you think, well, maybe Sheree really wouldn't be interested in Martell, but I'm just not 100% convinced. I think that a small part of her likes him. And I think he may also be the rebound for her after Tyrone, because I do feel like she seriously liked Tyrone. They dated for years, and, you know, she was dating someone who was limited. He couldn't spend physical time with her. It's not like they could live under the same roof. You know, he was incarcerated. So I feel like Martell is partly rebound, partly publicity stunt. And I think that a small part of her is starting to like him. So I actually feel like Martell and Sheree are equals. They are. Have you ever heard of, like, if you've gone to a Christian church, you've read the Bible about two people being equally yoked, being on the same page, the same wavelength, same goals, same mindset. I do feel like Martell Holt and Sheree are similar. They're both two underdeveloped people who have come together. So, but that's not a good equality. That's like underdevelopment. That's not a positive thing. That would So they are equals, but it's I would want more for Sheree. Now, on the flip side, with Melody, I feel like this is a great example of someone outgrowing their partner. I feel like Melody has grown and evolved, surpassing Martell. Even in addition to that, we all know that he cheated and produced a baby outside of the marriage, but I feel like also Melody has just outgrown Martell. So she married him at the ripe age of 22. That's like you are graduating from college, or you may have about one more year before you get your bachelor's degree. You may still be living in the dorms. I lived in the dorms my entire 4.5 years at Michigan State. So that's literally going from the dorms and writing term papers to getting married. Like, that's extremely young to get married and develop this life with another adult. So a lot of her evolving, she did it as a married woman and as a mom. She was also taking care of kids. And I would bet money, of course I do not know Melody personally, but I would bet money that Melody, the woman she is today, even if she did not have any children and obviously she's single, the woman she is today would not be interested in Martell. It's just that when she got married at the ripe age of 22, you look at things differently. You don't ask all of the same questions that you would at 36, the age she is now. You wouldn't ask all those dating questions that you would when you were 22. She probably started dating him when she was about 20 years old. Martell walking up to her, brown skin, fine, no kids. And, he probably put it on her and then, told her everything she wanted to hear. She fell in love. She got married. But the woman she is today would be like, well, what do you do for a living? Why don't you have that builder's license? Well, when are you going to take the test again? Do you own any property? So I feel like he got her knowing that she would work hard, she's smart, she didn't have any kids, and then along the way, she surpassed him. And then in addition, he was cheating. So I do feel like I always write down my notes, but as soon as I get to speaking from the heart, I fly through my notes. Now I do feel like even at the age of 22, though, Melody had a feeling that Martell was basically a hoe. Like, I'm sure that he cheated when they were dating. Like, come on now, a man doesn't start cheating in the marriage; he starts cheating when y'all were dating. And I'm sure she had an inclination that that's who he was, but she ignored those red flags. And that is something that we definitely do. And I'm sure that is something that Sheree is doing. She is ignoring the red flags. I'm sure she did with Bob Whitfield. I'm sure she did with Tyrone. And she's doing it with Martell. And a lot of women do. It's not just Sheree, it's not just Melody. Lots of us have ignored the red flags because either you wanted to have a companion, you wanted to be in a relationship, or perhaps you invested a lot of time with this person and you did not want to walk away. Or maybe you felt like they were the marrying type and you all would be this lovely couple to show yourselves off in church or amongst your family. You know how it is when you are raised, you're like programmed to do all these things throughout life and you're programmed to be like a people pleaser. Women are heavily programmed, let's just say it, from when we are little girls to want marriage, to want family, to want kids, and God forbid that you develop into a woman who doesn't want to have children. People look at you very foreign, like, what? Oh my gosh, you should at least have one. I've been told that before. You got to at least have one. Why though? Granted, of course, women can carry babies and give birth. That's something that the body has that physical ability to do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that is your focus or your destiny or your purpose. So I feel like Melody, I'm pretty sure she was raised right. She was raised to be a hard worker. She was raised to be a great mom, and it seems like one hell of a provider. And I'm sure she was programmed to want all of those things. And she stepped up to the plate. But sometimes you meet men who do not do the same. So, yeah, the pick me energy, that has a lot to do with the programming. Sometimes some women who are older than you and they kind of become like your mentor, especially if you were raised to go to church and believe in God and to love Him, and those people just kind of start, throwing their judgments and their expectations on you. Sometimes, they can kind of implant that spirit of desperation into you. Sometimes that was the same pressure that was applied to them. So they are just repeating the cycle. So you have to really be strong minded, an individual, and know what you want to make sure that you don't always internalize that pick me energy and those expectations and that pressure, or at least break from it at some point. And I do feel like, I'm breaking out of it myself. And that is basically all that I have. Again, it's so funny because a few days ago I was like, oh, Sheree and Martell, okay. Remember there was a video, it looked like, people were making jokes saying, what year was the cell phone, the one that they used to film Sheree and Martell? It looked like they were going for a walk and it was like they didn't zoom in. That was like from a couple weeks ago. And then this week, he flew into New York City to spend time with her. Even a few days ago, I was like, it's just a publicity stunt. But the more that, like once I watched her live and I thought about it, I was thinking, I think she's starting to like this guy, which would make sense considering her pattern of who she has married, dated, and even her business decisions. So I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to break it on down. Thank you for checking out this video. Please leave a comment about just Sheree's history of decision making and her business decisions, her personal dating decisions, what it all speaks to you. And then also let's talk about the pick me energy, how it's in all of our upbringings, the different dynamics that we are exposed to in our families, in school, in church, and the pressures and expectations that are applied to women. I want to hear your thoughts. This is actually Sheree and Martell, when you really break it down, like Sheree's, what we've seen publicly, her choices, her decisions, as well as Martell, it does spark really good conversation, which is why I wanted to go live and talk about it. But thank you so much for checking this out. I hope you've had a great weekend. I did. I've already worked out, grocery shopped, so I'm ready to chill. And I hope that you have an excellent week. It will not be a manic Monday. It will be a magnificent Monday, I promise. Be sure to journal and manifest what your hearts desire, and take good care. Bye-bye.